Happy Easter, everyone. This video is a recording of a panel I did at Toracon in 2018 at RIT in Rochester, New York, titled Godzilla, 60 plus years strong, which is, as you would expect, a panel on Godzilla. This panel is basically a class final that I did for college and then sort of repurposed into an informational discussion panel that I did at Toracon 2 years ago. This video was recorded on April 15th, 2018. Initially I was going to put this on YouTube right after I did it, after the convention weekend was up. But unfortunately, what happens when you attend an anime convention as a college student during the semester is that the workload kind of catches up to you, and then for me personally there were other things like computer dysfunction, other projects that got in the way, and then of course there was just straight up laziness, so the footage just kind of sat on my hard drive, unedited, and I kind of lost the want to put it up, especially considering it just seemed redundant. It's like I didn't want to put up this outdated panel just out of the blue, like, hey guys, here's this panel I did a year ago, enjoy. It's like, what? So yeah, I kind of gave up any hope of putting it up on YouTube. The only reason I'm putting it up now is because this weekend, Easter 2020, I was supposed to give this panel again at Anime Boston. The panel was supposed to be like a bigger version of the panel you're about to watch right now, with more content, more up to date, and of course with the name changed. And that time I would have recorded it and put it on YouTube immediately, with no care of what assignment was due, with my grade at stake. Well, because Anime Boston is a prestigious, if not the most prestigious, anime convention in North America. So having me do a panel there and then put it up on the world to see, that's very important, especially to me. But of course, as with everything else, Anime Boston was canceled this weekend because of the coronavirus. There's a chance, fingers crossed, I might be able to do it again next year, in 2021, provided I don't change a single thing about it, including the title. But that of course depends on my availability, whether I'm going to be able to do it next year or not. But in the meantime, all I can give you is the video I did 2 years ago at a smaller convention in Nowheresville, New York. But I do hope you enjoy what you see, and yeah, happy Easter, and it was me being a total Godzilla nerd. Welcome everyone to Godzilla, 60 Years Strong. My name is Zach Swasta, but I'm known on YouTube as Z-Swazi, the ranting nitwit. The reason for that is because I can rant about anything all day, every day, especially about this stuff. Because I'm a huge Godzilla nut. I've been a fan for Godzilla even longer than I've been a fan of anime. But I probably wouldn't even be a fan of anime if it wasn't for Godzilla. Because I've been anime, I've been a fan for like 5-some years, and Godzilla I've been a fan for 15 years, so it will be next year at least. Alright, so this presentation actually was a presentation I gave for my humanities class at Corning Community College. It was my final presentation, and because we had to choose like an art form we're very passionate about, and of course, since I'm very passionate about this stuff, I chose this. And after I gave that presentation, after I had pulled an all-nighter, the teacher looked back and she said, "Okay, does anyone want to try and top that?" Ooh. I'm going to interrupt just once, and only once, trust me, I'm not going to do this throughout the whole video, but I do just want to point out one thing. You just heard the attendees kind of groan as if the comment by my professor was meant to be taken ironically. But I just want to assure you guys, the viewers, that that was not the case. My professor was authentically blown away by how much passion and energy and information I gave to the class when I presented this panel as, in its first incarnation, a class presentation project. So just want to point that out just so there's clarity, because I didn't catch their reaction until after I watched this video afterwards, so I'll leave you alone. She called it a master thesis, so I can't say that this is an award-winning presentation, but it is A grade, A plus grade thesis right now. All right, so there we go. So that's the original. That was the original title, Hellspawn of Japan's film industry, Godzilla. Okay, so just going over the history. Obviously, the inspiration for the concept of Godzilla was pretty obviously the bombings of Hiroshima and Nagasaki. Those were the bombings that ended the war and kind of turned Japan and from this imperialistic empire state into a very kind of a pacifistic state. And it really left them war-torn and devastated, and then the American forces kind of occupied the country, and that just didn't set anything good. But there was another inspiration that not too many people know about. It's pretty much lost to history. It was called the Lucky Dragon incident, because obviously how Godzilla was created was the A-bomb testing, and that was what was going on at the time in the early 50s and late 40s, where Americans were still testing with A-bombs, more powerful than the H-bomb that was dropped in the cities. And there was this Japanese tuna boat called the Lucky Dragon No. 5 that drifted just a little too closely to one of the blasts, and the crew came back with like radiation poisoning, and it set the country into basically a tuna scare because people were too afraid to eat the contaminated tuna. So that was, so we don't hear about this in our classes, unfortunately. But back then it was a huge deal, huge news story. So let's shift the tone over to Toho Studios. This is the company that is credited as the creator and owner of Godzilla, but it's not as famous a name. But they were one of the major, like one of the early pioneering film studios of Japan, and they still are very prominent. Like they distribute a lot of anime. Like the Miyazaki films had to go through Toho before they could establish their own. Before Studio Ghibli was like its own distributor, pretty much. Because they mainly like focused on samurai films and then war films back in the early days. And this will bring us to the four founding fathers of Godzilla. First one was Tomoyuki Tanaka. He's credited as the creator of Godzilla, but only in the concept. Because how he created, because he's the one who basically came up with the idea of making a movie about a monster that attacks Japan. Because basically what happened was, he was going to showrun a project. There was a huge collaboration between Japan and Indonesia, but there were some political tensions, so he had to come up with a project that was bigger, that was as big, if not bigger. So as he was flying back, he looked over into the sea, and since this was just after the Lucky Dragon incident, he had that fresh in his mind. And he was thinking, what if there was an A-bomb that brought back a monster, and then that monster attacked Japan? So he pitched that idea to Toho, and he got the okay. But then he needed someone to make the movie, and that person was Ishiro Honda. Now Ishiro Honda he was more of an experimental film director, and this definitely was an experimental project. But he was ideal for this project because he was a World War II veteran, and he spent years, like 3 times, captive in China. And when he got back, he actually walked through the wreckage of Hiroshima, and this gave him like the imagery to really make Godzilla.
I think in the movie they even use Hiroshima's imagery.
Yes, yes, I'm actually going to get to that point later on. Then there was Akira Ifukube. He was the composer for Godzilla. He wasn't a founding father in the sense that he was there at its conception like the other 3 were, but he really gave Godzilla his identity in his music. The music, one of the themes you were just hearing right now when you guys walked in, That was like one of his most iconic film scores, and he hasn't done every Godzilla movie, just like Ishiro Honda hasn't directed every single Godzilla movie after this. But these scores are always noted as the most iconic. The only founding father who was there from for every single Godzilla movie up until his death was Tanaka. That's why he's always credited as the showrunner. But he wasn't like a George Lucas. Like he was just everything he says is line or anything. One of the most famous of the four is Eiji Tsuburaya, because he is really the one who came up with the design of Godzilla. He was supervising shooting Godzilla, because the principle of photography and the special effects photography are separate, and he was in charge of doing all of the special effects stuff. So everything was done under his jurisdiction. And I want to show off these amazing pictures of him, because he is a very iconic. Does anyone remember a few years back when Google actually had a doodle dedicated to him for his birthday? It was actually like an interactive game you can play, like make a monster movie. Yeah, they used also his famous icon of the fedora and the sunglasses. A look I would love to cosplay sometime. I really love showing off these pictures of him as he's directing on the set. Right here, he's directing Godzilla on Invasion of Astro Monster, and then Gyra and Sanda in War of the Gargantuas. And here's him directing for Godzilla once again. Here's him with Mothra, who's much bigger than you would have expected. Yeah, it's almost as big as him. And here's a picture of him conferring with director Honda. As you can see, Godzilla.
That was the puppet.
Yeah, that was the puppet. They used a lot of that. That was actually what they used, close-ups of him, moving his mouth, because the face animatronics on the suit, they didn't really have that kind of technology at the time, so everything had to be hand-operated. As for the monster itself, they really the crew decided to go with a dinosaur-like figure, and they decided to go for something a cross between a T-Rex and an iguanodon. Everyone always says T-Rex because who knows what an iguanodon is really. Eiji Tsuburaya wanted to use stop motion because he was inspired by this project foremost by King Kong. But there was no one skilled in stop motion animation at the time. So he had to resolve to, and also would have taken a lot of money and a lot of time, and they only had a few months. So they opted to go with a man in a rubber suit, but that was not easy at all, because the suit weighed over 200 pounds, and it was caused by very rare, very, I'm trying to think of the word, obsolete rubber that would harden and cause the movement to be stiff. The radioactive breath that was added, first off, he doesn't breathe fire. That's a misconception. He actually breathes radiation. I'm trying to think. It's like radiated flame or something.
Atomic heat ray.
Atomic heat. Well, yeah, kind of like that. But as over time the series became more action oriented, it kind of evolved this blast of atomic energy. The name obviously is a translation of the word Gojira, which has been said years around that it was named after an employee on the Toho lot, but several researchers have kind of shook their head at that, saying it's very hard that the guy who Godzilla was named after could be lost for 50 years. And that is kind of true. Here is the suit designer building the second model. His name is Eizo Kainai. He's making the second model of Godzilla because the first model, they designed it, they had a test. The actor got in, he thought it looked good, but then they asked him to walk. And he took a few steps after 10 minutes, and then he collapsed. Because they focused so hard on what it looked like that they ignored the aspect of operating suit, so they had to build a new one really quick. And even that was not perfect, as you can see. It was not unusual for the actor to literally trip over his feet. Yes?
For close-ups of Godzilla's feet in the original movie, they sometimes took the top half of the suit off.
Yes. Yes, I have another picture for that. So that's what Godzilla looks like himself, and the reason I love his look in the first film is because it's in black and white. It casts a shadow over his body, and it darkens them up. And so honestly, if you look at the original Godzilla face, it really doesn't look like in color or something. It doesn't look as impressive. But here, he's like a demon of death, kind of. As information of the first Godzilla was released on November 3rd, 1954. It made a lot of money, and it was very popular with audiences. Critics, they didn't really like it only because they felt a little too close because the American occupation forces, the country that bombed them, just left. So they were a little salty about that. But it is now considered to be one of the greatest movie monsters of all time. Yes, sir?
I was just going to say that critics also didn't like Godzilla King of the Monsters when they altered it and turned it into Godzilla King of the Monsters.
Yeah, that was a separate issue all on its own.
Exactly, yeah.
Let's see here, see if it's placed. Here's a clip to show off the special effects of. Can anyone see it okay? Yeah, so, by the way, that's not metal, that's wax. Yeah. This is, yeah, well, there's another story I like to tell that was about, how they, there was an early scene where he, like, stomps on a train.
Picks up his mouth and drops it.
Yeah, but there was the part where his foot comes down. There was a story I always like to tell. It was about the cameraman who shot that scene. They had to do that in one take because the time it took to build the train model took forever. So what happened was the cameraman rolled A.G. Tsuburaya called action. The cameraman rolled because he would slide the camera on like a skateboard or something. I don't know. The train came. The Godzilla actor he slammed his foot down. The cameraman took the roll of film and he ran it through a magnifier. And he thinks he saw what looked like a light stand in the corner of the frame, and he was freaked out because he knew A.G. Tsuburaya did not tolerate careless mistakes. But so then, when the entire special effects team gathered for a view, he was sweating bullets, but no one noticed it because it was like just barely off the corner when you actually looked at it from the original aspect ratio. So yeah, this is the damage that so yeah, this is how we can see Ishiro Honda's vision for this is why he was perfect as the director, because this is a picture of the aftermath of the Hiroshima bombings, and this is a picture of the aftermath of Godzilla's attack. So as you mentioned, he really I think he just like off memory, like knew how he wanted this to all look. Actually, and another funny story I have to tell is that how Honda, when he was planning the destruction of Tokyo, he actually took his team up to the top of a department store, and they started planning out loud. Oh, we can blow this building up here, we can knock this building down over here, and a security guard heard them. So, and then they called the cops and detained them, like as they were walking out of the store. I can only imagine their reaction from after that. how when they told the guards, oh, we're making a monster movie. And it was so popular that Toho immediately issued another sequel, like another movie, to be done in 6 months. Well, and so yeah, there's Godzilla raids again.
It's very so-so.
Yeah, it really is. Like the suits, you can tell like the suits are downgraded obviously because Godzilla fights another monster. That monster being Anguirus, a mutated ankylosaur. One of his, I mean, this is not from the movie. This is from Godzilla. This is from the Spoiled Monsters. This is the suit. This is like years later from the update of the suit. But that introduced the monster versus monster formula that would become more prominent. And the reason Godzilla raids again especially suffers is because some idiot. Because how they film these movies is that Godzilla actually has to walk 3 times faster than he does, because so they can crank. So they slow down the camera. No. Yeah, they speed up the camera and they slow it down to give them a little more realistic look. And some idiot left it to fast so that when they slowed it down, they fight in like fast forward pretty much. Not all shots like that part, but that's pretty much how most of the movie is. Yeah, that's the clip of Godzilla fighting Anguirus in Osaka. So obviously you know that building is doomed. After that, Toho decided to experiment with other movie monsters, including Rodan,
Awesome.
Varan, and Mothra. And then they started doing other science fiction epics that had monsters of their own, including Mogira in The Mysterians and Manda in Atragon.
Did you know that Toracon got a remake in the form of an OVA anime?
Yeah, I heard about that. Yeah, I don't think Manda was in it, was he?
They removed Manda.
I know. How did you do that?
But it is good. It is a good OVA.
Okay, well, if it's not Manda, then there's no love to it. Okay, but yeah, so so Godzilla eventually came to America in 1957. Heavily altered version that was basically toned down the message of anti-war and anti-nuclear war. Not really out of propaganda, more like the American writers just didn't understand the message.
It's more like a dumbed down version, really.
Yeah, it is.
Yeah.
It really is, and they pretty much changed the story. You have no idea how shocked I was when I actually saw the original version for the first time. I'm so used to seeing this guy. They inserted him as like an American commentator. Raymond Burr playing Steve Martin. I'm not kidding, that was his name.
When I was a kid, Godzilla King of the Monsters used to kind of scare me a bit, but then I saw the original Gojira and I was horrified. Like, I thought it was a very scary movie.
Oh yeah, definitely. Like the typhoon scene they had with him, he's hanging onto a tree. Yeah, that actually adds a little bit of levity to it. And then came his big comeback and King Kong's big comeback in 1962 in color in suit motion called King Kong vs. Godzilla. Originally, it was supposed to be King Kong vs. Frankenstein. And then Toho changed King Kong to Godzilla, and then they changed Frankenstein to Godzilla.
Yeah.
And then they gave Frankenstein his own movie later on. But that's one of the big monster clashes of the 20th century. And no, there are not 2 endings, contrary to what rumor says. Then they started combining their monsters starting with Mothra versus Godzilla. As you can see, most of the movie consists of Mothra either annoying him with her wings or dragging him by his tail. And then they started like doing all these like clashes starting with Ghidorah, the 3-headed monster.
I think that one's kind of meh.
Yeah, I agree, but I mean, story-wise it's okay. Which this is like when it's kind of like the MCU right now, where like they're starting teaming up all their characters, and this is pretty much the Loki of the series, King Ghidorah, one of the most another icon of cinema history, a 3-headed dragon. Yeah. But by the way, there is an actor in there, even though everything else is wire operated. All he's doing is just holding it up.
Holding it up and walking.
Yeah, exactly. And then, all right, so monster roll call. So other Toho monsters include Baragon in Frankenstein Conquers the World, Dogora, Gazora from Space Amoeba, the Maguma from Gorath, Gorosaurus from King Kong Escapes, Gyra and Sanda from War of the Gargantuas. Back to Godzilla films, we have Ebirah. I always call him a lobster, but I think he's more of a shrimp.
Yes.
Godzilla versus the sea monster. And then we come back to Son of Godzilla, which introduces Minilla, his son, which also introduced Kamacuras, the mantis, and Kumunga, the spider. Now let's meet the man who actually portrayed Godzilla, Haru Nakajima. There was originally supposed to be like multiple actors playing him, but the other guy got injured.
He recently died.
Yeah, I was just about to. I was about to mention that. Yeah, you're way ahead of me there. Anyway, so he was a stunt actor, and he was willing to take on any role that was offered to him. And he thought Godzilla would have been like a man in a suit because he took the role before the design was even finalized. But he was still willing to do it. So he was a very dedicated actor. He passed out several times on occasion. He suffered blisters and stuff because the suit was meant to fit snug, and with the hard rubber rubbing against his skin, his sweaty skin, caused blisters. Now, every time he got out, they would have to drain like quarts of sweat from the suit. Yeah, I know. Ew. But he continued to play Godzilla for 12 consecutive films until he retired in 1972, and he played most of the monsters that you just saw right there, that slideshow. So here's him, he's being fitted for the Godzilla suit. He kept close contact with most of his suit designers just so he could make sure it all fit. And A.G. Tsuburaya would come to rely on him to choreograph the monster fights and whatnot. So yeah, there's what you mentioned. They cut the first suit up in half so that they could make it easier to show his feet close-ups. And this is one of the most popular pictures of him, where Tezuka, the original actor, assists him helping out of the suit or offering refreshment between takes. So now, to give you an idea how dedicated an actor he was willing to do whatever was asked of him, no matter what. He wanted to give the crew that he was invincible and therefore indispensable. Yes?
I heard that in the movie Varan, Varan the Unbelievable, he actually broke a limb or something like that while it was filming, and even then he tried to shrug it off, and while he was, and he would do whatever the director would ask for him, such as being buried alive under the set as Baragon, having explosives detonated on his neck and shoulders as Gyra, having explosives detonate beneath his crotch as Varan. And there were occasions when his suit would catch on fire. Or when playing Rodan and during a flying scene, the connector cable snapped and he plummeted into the ocean. That was a cool set. Yeah, like you said, if he was injured or anything, which is actually more rare than you would think, he actually tried to make sure nobody knew about it. Again, he wanted to be invincible. He wanted to be indispensable. And he would even willingly submerge himself into a pool underwater in the suit, where he could have easily drowned. But as you can see, he is just as happy to be there. I think the only movie he did not do was Son of Godzilla, because that movie, Godzilla was built to be more taller than usual so that he could contrast with Minilla. So he was a little too short for that suit. Now, when I gave this presentation for my humanities class, I showed this picture of Haru Nakajima and I said, "Here is Haru Nakajima today. He is alive and retired and living in Tokyo." Unfortunately, that was back in May, and since then, in August, he had sadly passed away. But he was honored in the at the Oscars in the in memoriam segment. If anyone saw that, because I freaked out when I saw that. All right. So the series was supposed to end with Destroy All Monsters, which is basically like the Infinity War. By the way, false advertising. Most of the monsters you see are only in it for like a few seconds. The Ram back there is like is only in there literally.
It's like a statue.
Yeah.
Being a statue.
Because they didn't want to build a suit for him.
Right.
But then it continued during the 70s with a little more, they tried to make it aimed more at children, and they became more heavily reliant on stock footage because A.G. Supereye had passed away around that, so they needed it, so all of his like apprentices kind of took over for him. And ironically, yes?
Would you say that try to be more aimed at children because Gamera around the same time?
Yes, definitely. Now we're not touching on Gamera because that'll just,
That's a different topic altogether.
Also, I've only seen like a few Gamera films, I know. I'm a fanboy of Godzilla. That started with All Monsters Attack, which was also known as Godzilla's Revenge. Very childish. Also ironically, even though this was more aimed at children, there was bloodshed in this era. A.G. Supereye did not want that because he had children in his mind for his audience, and even though this was a target audience, they added blood. Isn't that contradictory? But it introduced creepy monsters as well, including one of the most infamous Godzilla enemies, which is Hedorah, the Smog monster. And if you were around in the 70s, you heard this. You heard this. Yeah, you're nodding your head back there.
You want to know where they got this inspiration for Hedorah's eyes?
Where?
Vaginas.
Yeah, I knew you were gonna say that. I was hoping you wouldn't go that way, but oh well.
I'm sorry.
Yeah, no, you're fine.
I mean, it's probably true.
It's
No,
true.
He said that. Oh, okay. Yeah.
But it also introduced awesome creatures like Mechagodzilla
Yes, that is right.
and King Caesar. Also Titanosaurus.
Most annoying one.
And Gabara. Gigan. Megalon. And one of the most popular creatures ever, Jaguar.
Yay.
Just to give you an idea of of how these films have changed, here is the original trailer for Godzilla vs. Gigan.
2匹の宇宙怪獣をあの怪獣たちはこのテープが発する信号でコントロールされている。君たちは一体何者なんだ。
今から怪獣たちは東京を中心に手当たり次第に破壊する。
Literally the only Godzilla movie I know where the poster actually made it to a t-shirt that's sold in the American stores. Another fun fact about Gigan is that his claws were originally made of solid fiberglass. Almost impossible to help because the monster maker was an idiot and he thought he was making a sculpture, and the actor inside often would clash with him. Wouldn't you? I know I would. Speaking of that actor, I forgot his original name here. I wrote it down here because I know because he changed his name since this happened. Currently, his name is Ken Satsuma. I don't memorize most of these names.
Why would he change his name?
I don't know. That's what you do when you're famous.
Yeah.
Okay, well anyway, I'll just call him Satsuma for the sake of this. Alright, so he was like an apprentice to Haru Nakajima because he kind of mentored him into the role of a suit actor. So he played Hedora, and even though literally everything he tried was muted between 500 pounds of monster costume, he still got a lot of recognition for the role in this, so then he got offered to play Gigan. And eventually he became the suit actor for Godzilla in the 80s and 90s. Now here's my favorite story to tell about anything that happens in these movies. While filming the fighting scene, while wearing this costume, his appendix became inflamed. They had to operate, because the suit took forever to get off, they had to operate with him still inside the suit. Just to add injury to insult, the painkillers didn't work. Well, eventually the movie ended, the series unfortunately ended in, the Golden Age ended in 1975 with Terror of Mechagodzilla, and I'm going to say this is my all-time favorite Godzilla film ever. I just think it's awesome, the story and whatnot. And if you saw this movie prior to 2007, you saw a highly edited version. It's also, if you watch the Japanese version, it's literally the only movie Godzilla movie where you will see boobies.
Yes.
They're fake plastic ones, but still. So, and it was the last time Ashiro Honda would direct. Well, I don't know. Did he direct more? I don't know. I don't think he did. He got retired. He retired early on. But this is the last time he worked with Akira Ifukube. There are two versions. There was a TV version that was actually longer than the Japanese version because they added a prologue to extend it for a TV run. And unfortunately, it's the lowest performing Godzilla film to date. But that is bad. But the good news is, I can say it is the only Godzilla film to have been written by a woman.
Sweet.
Also, it contains, no debate, the greatest entrance Godzilla has ever made. Get the damn video play.
Annoying roars ever.
When Titanosaurus looked at me. Sorry, it's VHS quality. Another reason I'm kind of biased towards this film because it was the first Godzilla movie I ever saw, which is not a pleasant story because that was when I was in the infirmary at 5 a.m. on a Friday morning. Okay, so but Godzilla made his big comeback in 1984 with The Return of Godzilla, which only came out to DVD just a couple years ago in its original form. That was his name, Kengo Nakayama. This was his debut on Godzilla, and he would play Godzilla throughout the Heisei version, the Heisei era, because Godzilla's series is kind of separated into three series. The classic shows were called the Showa series, and this is the Heisei series. It was, because I'm pretty sure this is any good for any long-running series. it goes on who was the emperor at the time, who was ruling. Because right now we are in the Heisei era. I think they recently announced that there is an end date, like in the near future. I don't know if anyone, don't quote me on that. Alright, I'll say that for later. Okay. Okay, so but they decided to go. They honest to God wanted to build a life-size Godzilla. All they could make was the foot. So they decided to go with a Cybot Godzilla, which looked like this monstrosity. Yes, literally, and it barely worked. And now I think it's currently on display at an amusement park.
This falls out of scared children.
Yes. And then they brought Raymond Burr back to do an Americanized version called Godzilla 1985, and that is literally right-wing propaganda. Literally, there is a scene where a Russian officer tries to stop a missile from being launched. And they changed the subtitle of the translation to "I must stop that missile" to "I must launch that missile."
So one thing I must say I do like about this film is that when Raymond Burr was asked to do the role, the script was originally going to be a comedy.
Yeah.
However, Raymond Burr looked at this comical script and said, "You're going to make this a serious film, or I'm not going to be a part of it."
Yeah. I heard a rumor that Leslie Nielsen was supposed to star in it. Honest to God, I agree with Raymond Burr, but I would have killed to see Leslie Nielsen in a Godzilla film. That's awesome. I would add $1,000 to my student debt to read that script.
Well, it can't happen now. He's dead.
Well, yeah, obviously, I want to read the script. Yes, sir.
Should also be noted that they had to change his name for this movie.
Yeah,
because
Steve Martin was
the actual actor.
the actual actor was popular.
Yeah,
So
so
they
they
don't
changed his
only
name.
refer to him as Martin, and in the credits he's Stephen Martin. Also, this movie is also famous for apparently because it's not like he's like even in the story like the first movie. He's literally just like in the Pentagon, just watching and making commentary that pretty much goes nowhere. Literally all his dialogue, even though he gives a good performance, is bullcrap. We must try and communicate with him. That never happens. He's looking for something. What movie were you watching when you wrote this scene? But apparently, the only drink allowed in the Pentagon is Dr. Pepper.
His speech at the end was good, though. I did like his speech at the end. Nature.
Oh yes, definitely. What you said about the script, that shows Raymond Burr knew more about Godzilla better than the writers did.
Right. Yeah.
And literally, they shot all his scenes in literally just one day. But another funny story about him when they were making this movie, like I said, with the Dr. Pepper product placement that was everywhere. Like I think this is like when Dr. Pepper was like their own bottling company. They wanted a scene where Raymond Burr actually picked up a can and drank it. So when they told him, literally he said nothing. He just gave them a dirty look, and then that was the end of it.
Someone else did it instead.
Yeah, there was some other actor who's probably not acting anymore. You don't know any of those actors for obvious reasons. Unfortunately, this has not come to DVD yet because the studio that released this is no longer in business, and that happens. You will never see a time when all the Godzilla movies are released at the same time because they're all owned by different distributors in America, which I hope changes at some point. But Funimation just picked up Shin Godzilla. I'm hoping they will get all the other ones. Of course, then the prices will shoot up because it's Funimation, but whatever. So in the Heisei version, they started rebooting their old monsters, including King Ghidorah, and I don't care what anyone says, I hate his Heisei roar. I hate that they just altered Rodan's roar.
I liked his roar.
Well, it's too, if they didn't bring back Rodan, then it would have been fine, but I prefer King Ghidorah's original roar. And then they brought back Mothra and Rodan, and Mechagodzilla. Honestly, literally all he does in this movie, he just pretty much just stands there and just shoots him. He does not fight like the other Mechagodzilla does. And then they started getting original monsters, including Batra, Biolante. He's only in the movie for like 10 minutes anyway, but. And then Destroya was also only in the movie for 10 minutes.
That's one of the most emotional movies ever. And
Yes, it is.
Yes.
Yes, it is. I'll get to that in a minute. The Space Godzilla. Hey, by the way, who's seen the third Pokemon movie
I think
with Entei in it?
Yeah.
Literally, it has the exact same plot as this movie.
Crystals.
Yeah, crystals, kidnapping, family kidnappings. Yeah. Anyway. So yeah, so it ended with Godzilla versus Destroya in 1995, and that's where they sadly killed Godzilla off. And so Akira Ifukube, he scored like most of the movies except for Godzilla versus Space Godzilla, but he came back for this because he felt that he should have been there at Godzilla's death since he was there at his beginnings. So they were originally going to plan to end it again, but I'm sure you all know what came after that.
That's a lot of fish.
Who was there when that movie came out? There's no. How old were you in 1998? Yeah.
I was 12.
You do,
I'm 31.
you do not look 31. Anyway.
Yeah. One good thing about that movie, the animated series is actually really good.
Yes, I will say I didn't add the cartoons. There was a Godzilla 1970s
Oh,
cartoon.
Godzuki.
That's a lot of fish.
It was terrible, but this. Alright, let me touch on this for me first. Yeah, because they've been trying to reboot doing American Godzilla since the 80s, but it wasn't until like the 90s when it actually became a serious thing. But the writers kept dropping out, and eventually they handed it to two numbskulls who had no idea what Godzilla was.
The original script was pretty cool, though.
It was.
That's what this is a brick.
Yes, it really was. Unfortunately, this guy was like, oh, we should make everything realistic and whatnot.
Realistic.
Yeah, it was made by Dean Devlin and Roland Emmerich. They made Independence Day, which I actually like that movie. I do like this movie. Honestly,
Ironic way.
yeah.
It's a good monster movie. It's
Not
just not
Godzilla.
Godzilla.
Well, I would consider him like partially Godzilla because he does have some of the traits. It's just, well, the reason he's not Godzilla is just because he hunts on instinct and not by unpredictable nature. Yes, sir.
You needed to include the line, that's a lot of fish.
Do you really want me to pull that clip?
Put it in the description. At the
That's
very
a lot
least.
of fish. I don't understand. Now, correct me if I'm wrong, but is that line only famous because the installer character made that famous?
It could be, but it's a famous line because it's a funny line. It's a dumb line.
It's so out of.
Yes.
Yeah, I don't know. Well, I don't know, but literally it's one of the most hated 90s films ever. It really, like the scene where they're running through Madison Square Gardens and you see all the advertisements for businesses that no longer exist. Like Blockbuster.
Yeah.
Yeah, who remembers that? And who remembers the Taco Bell commercials?
With
The Chihuahua. Okay, yeah, that's the reason why, because he's not invulnerable to firepower. He only avoids death because he runs.
Right. Yeah.
I mean, and the minute Matthew Broderick says he's not an enemy, he's an animal. It's like you just ruined the whole movie there. And also, it contains not one but 3 Simpsons voice actors. I did not know this voice actress for Bart Simpson had a cameo until years later.
The acting was like porn.
Yeah, but then they brought back with Godzilla 2000. TriStar made their own like little Americanized version that wasn't as heavily edited as the last 2 editions. But for years and years, this was the only Godzilla movie to have ever come out into the United States. But apparently it didn't do so well. And this started the Millennium series, which lasted until 2004.
I liked the movie a lot. One of the things I really loved about the movie was its score. I really loved it.
I did, yeah. They had a really good score, Japanese score, and then the American composer was really good too. So this is what Godzilla looked like in Godzilla 2000. They really upped his game here, and for some reason his spikes are purple and he has an orange flame instead of a blue flame that was very primitive. So the actor in here is I can't pronounce his name. Sumu Kitagawa. And I'm only mentioning him because I want to show off this picture of me with him at Power MorpherCon. Please don't ask why I'm dressed like that. That was a that's my mad scientist character. He's very crazy indeed. Okay, but so it introduced original monsters such as Orga and Megaguirus. And there's a lot of people say that these two movies are not connected, but I honestly think that's kind of bullcrap because interesting. Well, I mean, it's interesting because Godzilla vs. Megaguirus is like an alternate timeline where Godzilla never died; he just like disappeared.
Right.
Like they literally like reboot. They reboot the first movie pretty much. But Orga is an awesome
Very
monster.
awesome monster.
It's too bad he's only in it for like a few minutes.
Yeah.
And also introduced Kiryu, who is the third version of Mechagodzilla. Much better than the second one.
Very good.
Yeah, so most of these were like rebooted sequels.
Yes.
Rebooted sequels to
Goat.
to the original Godzilla. But this is the only movie that really is like an actual sequel. It treats it.
Goat. Goat. Greatest of all time. Goat.
His head kind of bothers me though. And then it's not the eyes, it's like his jaw. It's so small.
But
His head looks like this.
the special effects are god tier.
That Mothra.
Yeah, Mothra.
Yeah, Mothra. Aragon's also in it.
Yeah.
And then he dies.
Yeah.
And then Mothra comes, and then she dies.
Godzilla kills everyone in that.
Literally, and King Ghidorah is he's like kind of like the Jesus of the film. He like, when he brings out, he comes up, and he's about to rise and defeat Godzilla, and then he dies.
Yeah.
Spoiler alert. So then it ended with Godzilla Final Wars. The 50th, that was his 50th anniversary movie. And so that was famous because it introduced human fighting.
Mutants. Mutant humans.
Yeah, I really wish Funimation would redub this film.
Yeah.
I mean, because I can see Todd Havercorn playing the villain in that
It
movie.
had an American actor, I forgot his name.
Yes, Don Fry.
Yeah.
He was awesome. He's the best character in
He
that
was
movie.
awesome. in that movie.
But also, it's also famous for this scene that had me at the edge of my seat when I was a kid.
Godzilla. Okay, let me see what you made of.
One of the most annoying villains ever. I will say, yeah, that was Sub 41 playing.
Yeah.
I'm curious, how many people did not knew Godzilla 1998 but did not know that scene existed until just now? Okay. Well, yeah, that's why I'm trying to educate people here. Who knew you'd come to RIT and actually learn something? Was that an unintentional insult?
I don't know.
Who's a student here? Okay, whatever. Anyway. But yeah, well, yeah. By the way, touching base on the 1998 animated series, yeah, they really upped the game on Godzilla and that. Well, obviously they
made Godzilla fight.
Yeah, he has
and
a
fight the monsters.
He fights monsters and he doesn't lay eggs. Yeah, he lays eggs in the original movie. And he also is invulnerable to military technology.
Yeah.
So, he is more Godzilla in the movie that's not even based on an authentic Godzilla film than the '70s cartoon Godzilla. Because that Godzilla, they took him a little too. All the stereotypes of what Godzilla is.
They made him too cartoony.
Well, he's green. When he's not green, he's black.
Right.
Okay, that kind of came out wrong. Anyway, he literally breathes fire. They took that a little too literal. He has eye lasers too.
Why? What?
Yes.
If you ever read the Godzilla, I think Kingdom of Monsters comic,
Yeah.
when the military actually goes and bombs Godzilla, that's what gives him his thermonuclear blast. they consider nuking him again, and the president even goes on to say, no, don't do
Yeah.
that, he might start shooting lasers out of his eyes.
Yeah, by the way, Godzilla rules the earth. Best. That is literally the best Godzilla comic series ever, no debate. That has like almost all the monsters they can get their hands on, even the obscure ones. But also speaking of comic books, Marvel Comics wrote their own Godzilla series of comics, and he actually fights the Avengers. They even shrink him down to their size so they can fight him.
They actually shrink it down to the size of a rat.
Yeah, I know, and then he fights a rat.
Yeah.
But also, I think the one thing that really kind of pissed me off about the classic cartoon was that they didn't get the roar. So literally, it's like, how do you get the rights to Godzilla but not his roar?
Right.
I think that is like you need the roar to be God, or else he's not Godzilla. Otherwise, he's literally just a man going roar. That's what he was. It was just a guy going roar. Yes, sir.
Also wanted to add that the guy who did that award for the 1970s cartoon is the same guy who played the Hulk
Yeah.
in the 1970s TV show.
Yeah, well, they Lou Ferrigno. Okay, I thought it was Ted Cassidy. I thought you were talking about the Hulk cartoon show, right?
No, it's the actual Hulk live action.
Oh, okay. I didn't know. I met Lou Ferrigno, so I should have asked him that when that was at Rock Hour when he was there.
Yeah.
So yeah, because that was yeah, to celebrate his 50th anniversary on the same day that it premiered in Los Angeles, of all places. They gave him a star of the Hollywood Walk of Fame. So if you're in Los Angeles, be sure to look it up. I don't really know the street it's on, but. So, now had I given this presentation just like 10 years ago, we would have ended there, but obviously things have changed. We got a second Godzilla American reboot simply called Godzilla. Unfortunately, he is on it for about a total runtime of 10 minutes because it focuses on two new creatures called the Mutos. And yeah, even though it should be about him, it's advertised as about him.
Yeah.
It's more like the 70s movies where they focus on other monsters and then he just kind of comes and does it and saves the day. I wanted another Godzilla movie where he was the hero. And no, don't say Final Wars because he still attacked the military.
He's an anti-hero in that one.
Yeah, he's an anti-hero. And I like Godzilla as an anti-hero, but he does not destroy buildings intentionally. He does not retaliate. The military fires at him. He does nothing. Other than just like go, eh. And I wanted something like really dark.
I think 2014 was still not.
Yeah, I agree. I liked it, but he breathes fire. He looks like Godzilla. He sounds like Godzilla. And what he did to the Muto at the end, where he breathed fire down its neck,
That was badass.
yeah. And he had a good entrance in that one too. So yeah, the Godzilla parts were good, but everything else not so much. Okay, the Bryan Cranston part.
Yeah, that's true. Yeah.
Too many dies. Not even. He dies before you see Godzilla. That's
Too much worshipping of the American
Yeah.
military in that movie.
And then here we go.
Yeah, but then
Hideaki Anno, director Evangelion.
yes, very good. The Evangelion team made their own Godzilla film. History has repeated itself. Like Godzilla 2000, a Japanese movie follows in the footsteps of an American film. Toho swears that this was not an answer to the Hollywood film, but I kind of see that as the way when McDonald's said that they ended their supersize option because of the movie they didn't do it because of the movie Supersize Me. Yes, sir?
Way too many people were complaining about Godzilla's new powers, like how he can shoot plasma out
Yeah.
of his back and out of his tail. And,
He barely does it anyway, so.
I just think it's awesome. I mean, like, Godzilla flew in a movie, so this is pretty tame compared.
They were
He didn't fly to the moon.
It's bring back to the original idea that he was forced into destruction.
Yes, definitely. Hey, who remembers when this movie was announced to be released by some obscure New World Cinema?
Yeah.
Yeah.
How did we all fall for that?
But then Funimation.
Yeah, it's like you worked. It's like Toho has done business with Warner Brothers and TriStar. Why would you add the movie that would go to win the Japanese Academy Award for Best Picture to this obscure B movie company? But yeah, Funimation picked it up and they actually dubbed the movie themselves not in theaters, but and Todd Havercorn plays the main character, which I kind of predicted.
Oh, that movie,
Shin Godzilla,
it's
yeah.
amazing.
It is amazing.
Very good.
It came out to theaters. Great, I had to drive to Syracuse, the Syracuse Mall to see it.
I saw it.
Yeah, I saw it. Who saw it in theaters? Yeah, you guys are cool.
I saw it twice in theaters.
I wanted to see it twice, but I had to play rehearsal, so. But yeah, Funimation, only the best company could have picked it up. I hope they do more business with Toho in the future.
They actually, I think a lot of the people that work for them are Godzilla fans, and they did.
Yes.
In the DVD, there was a bonus, or Blu-ray, there was a bonus where there were a bunch of geeks who got together and just basically talked about the movie and Godzilla and stuff.
Alright, okay, so I know you got a question there. I gotta wrap this up because I want to wrap the PowerPoint up real quick, so I guess I have a couple more things to show. So yeah, it's much more different than most Godzilla movies. Also because Godzilla looks like this in the beginning. I literally said, literally when this shot came up, my brother was with me. I was like, what the fuck is that thing?
Yeah.
Oh yeah. Also, and I like how this movie uses like classic music from like the older movies and new music from the team that did it. I think they even reused some of Evangelion's music.
Yes, they did. I don't know, it was actually fan Godzilla, so.
Yeah. A lot of good opera songs too, which I think is vital.
Full No
for Godzilla.
Tragedy. Full No Tragedy.
I love
Very,
that song.
I love that song.
Yeah, so this is what he looks like in the beginning. He like kind of grows into this thing. I don't know. It kind of scared me when I first saw his face. It's
Yeah.
like, why is his eyes so tiny?
His jaw split in the movie too. It made it even more
Yeah.
horrifying.
Yeah, I know. And then it like opens up like a snake, and even though the beam is like so tiny. Oh well. But anyway, so more to where I updated this for this presentation. Godzilla Planet of the Monsters, its first anime film. Unfortunately, it's CGI anime, which I think is ugly. So it was a three-part movie trilogy. It was a three-part trilogy. Part one was recently released on Netflix just earlier this year. There's gonna be two more. It's released theatrically in Japan and not in America. Bastards. It's going to Netflix. All right, now I'm gonna throw out an opinion. This is what he looks like. Oh, okay. I thought I had that slide. Okay, whatever. Anyway, but Godzilla? Well, okay. I'm gonna throw this out. I hate this movie. I hated it. Literally. Thank you. Literally. Okay. The main character is completely annoying, one-dimensional character. Godzilla moves like a rock. I don't care. You can say every Godzilla's different or whatever. And every time he barely does anything. There was a scene where he like slightly moves his hand, and yet someone crashes it like he just swatted at him. Also, every time he does this beam, it like cuts away like this bar shot. It's like, oh, watch how long his beam goes.
Well, then when the actual Godzilla shows up, like out of the mountain though.
Yeah, and it's like
awesome.
they blow him up like easily, and they're like, oh wait, what? I don't think that was the real Godzilla. And then just coincidentally, as he said that, he rises up, and they're just like, oh great, king of the monsters. It's like, shut up! You don't get to say that. It's like you spent the whole time blowing up the wrong Godzilla, and yet that's like, oh, this is horrible.
You notice how at the end, after the end credits, there was a girl who looked like she had antennae like an insect?
Yeah, literally, that is like, yeah, it's like, oh, okay, post-credit scene. Okay, well, that was stupid.
Probably a manga reference.
So yeah, as for the future of Godzilla, so obviously the next two parts of Godzilla, the Monster Planet, are coming out. This is Mechagodzilla, even though it does not look like him. Did anyone see Ready Player One?
Yeah.
There was a Mecha. I'm not gonna spoil. I don't want to spoil too much, but they have like their own version of Mechagodzilla that looks way more true to the original than this thing does. But he fights Iron Giant and Gundam, which is amazing. I'm gonna say that's the only good part of that movie.
Yeah, kind of is.
So they're gonna. As for if Japan's gonna make another live action movie, it's a little unknown.
They will. They plan to, but
Shin Godzilla.
they have to let the Americans do their.
Yeah,
There's some deal about not competing with.
Yeah, it's because the American, unlike the last attempt, this actually is going to continue on, and that brings me to anyone see King Kong
Yes.
Skull Island?
Awesome movie.
How many people went to Skull Island and like
missed
Actually,
it.
stayed for the credits.
I heard about the credits staying, so I did stay.
Yeah, well, most people left, I guess. Alright, so,
Video play after.
so if you did not see it, this is
This is it right here, is that a car?
yeah, this is what we all waited for. Something that plays before the movie.
You just gonna sit there in the dark? You're enjoying this, right? Is this fun for you? I promise I won't tell the Russians.
Promise I will tell the Russians.
She's gonna tell the Russians. Why are you keeping us here?
I want to go home.
We get it. There was no island. We were never on an island. Island? What island? Brooks, what the hell is going on?
Welcome to Monarch.
This island is just the beginning.
There's more out there.
What do you mean, more? This world never belonged to us. It belonged to them. The question is how long before they take it back. Carl is not the only king.
Hi, train.
Yeah.
I misplaced the slide. I looked through this in like last night. That's what it looks like in Monster Planet. So what we learned, just in summary, what he is, he's not just a movie theater monster. He actually is a force of destruction, and we need to see him that way. That he's actually trying to add a humanistic idea to this series. So yeah, so he's not going anywhere.
I think I'm turning into a defense, so.
Yeah. Anyone any other last questions? I know you had one in the back.
Oh, no, I was just going to state that if you watch Shin Godzilla, then you actually go and watch an Evangelion movie or the show, you're like, yeah, this is obviously Evangelion,
Yeah.
just with Godzilla in it. But it's super awesome.
Yeah.
So it just gives you like more appreciation for the film, I think.
Yeah, very fun.
Thank you very much, everyone.